This is the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo Manifesto Editions. The serial number 49 on the record broadcasting time for this edition is 0550 hours GMT, London, UK, on Tuesday, the 3rd of September 2024. The latest edition, dated the 30th of August 2024, of a corrupt 16-page tabloid propaganda for Roxana Fias. This is the one, Roxana Fias, and this has got the front page covered with two splashes for Roxana Fias. One is the repetition of the so-called slogan for crisis, new crisis, financial crisis, that is a plea to Keir Starmer. And the second one is a mural, the opening of a mural in honor of Jimi Hendrix. Again, the picture containing a beaming Roxana Fias. No sign there of the condemnation of Roxana Fias by 22, 23, even maybe more elected councillors in Neom Council for her bullying, her arrogance, and her hostility to the elected councillors. Now, obviously, Neom is one of the, in fact, the only council, London English Council, English Borough Council, that has the solid majority of Labour Party card-carrying members elected to the council. But as I said to Robin Wales on 14th of March 2018 in a live television challenge to Robin Wales on a live television program, on a satellite television program, the elected mayor post was undemocratic, anti-democratic. And in the 16 years that he had been incumbent, Robin Wales, in that post, Robin Wales had cowered. He had intimidated elected Labour councillors into submission, into not raising any concern, any criticism, any demands for accountability to him. Now, instead of reversing that trend of unaccountability, lack of democracy, hostility to accountability, Roxana Fias, now in her second term, has reinforced what Robin Wales did for 16 years. And instead of pointing this out, the so-called NUJ, former National Union of Journalists, left-winger, Aidan White, is running not one, but three, compared to the actual pages, three big splashes promoting Roxana Fias. Now, this is in the month, the second month, calendar month. I'm talking about the Newham Voices, which I think deserves to be called Newham Vices, meaning all the lies of Roxana Fias are being whitewashed by Aidan White. Aidan White, A-I-D-A-N and Aidan Patrick White. Aidan Patrick White and I met in 1981 when Aidan Patrick White and Jake Eccleston and Mike Jamshid were pretending to publish an alternative to the East London, I call it Idiotizer, the commercial weekly newspaper at the time in 1981. East London Advertiser, I call it the East London Idiotizer, because of the contents and the agenda and the narrative being solely dedicated to making people ignorant. So instead of informing them, the idiotizer idiotizes them. So there was this contextual background. There was an expectation that any alternative to the then East London idiotizer would be welcome. So Jake Eccleston, Aidan White, and Mike Jamshid, with the collaboration of a woman called Zelda Curtis, who was the fundraiser for the so-called communist Morning Scar, they pretended to publish this East End news. Now that coincided with the actual election by the voters of London of a Labour Greater London Council, replacing the Conservatives. The Conservatives, after the May 1981 GLC election, were led by Horace Cutler, and Horace Cutler led Conservatives were defeated by Andrew McIntosh, no doubt a right wing Labour Party member, but he actually led the Labour Party GLC to victory against the Horace Cutler fronted Conservative Greater London Council. And Ken Livingston Livingstone was one of the then elected GLC councillors. And Ken Livingston Livingstone, accompanied by Bryn Davies et al., Francis Morel Immoral, staged a coup against Andrew McIntosh. Within literally 48 hours of the GLC 1981, May 1981 election. And they staged the coup and they replaced Andrew McIntosh, with Ken Livingstone being declared the leader of the then newly elected Greater London Council, GLC. Now, what happened after that over the following 5 years was a tussle between Ken Livingstone fronted GLC and the then UK central government regime fronted by Margaret Thatcher. Ken Livingstone misrepresented the people of London by mounting a political challenge to Margaret Thatcher, not based on principle, not based on the needs of the people of London, not based on democracy, not based on the need for accountability, not based on the accountability that the GLC lacked and it owed to the people on various essential services in London, but based on fantasy that Ken Livingstone, along with the then Lambeth Council Labour regime fronted by Ted Knight, mounted, indulged in. And the Inner London Education Authority was taken over, and Francis Morel, who was the previous former aide to Tony Benn, became the leader of the Inner London Education Authority by toppling Bryn Davies, who was temporarily made the leader of the Inner London Education Authority. Now, the Inner London Education Authority, or ILEA, was technically a subcommittee of the Greater London Council, but it became on its own, independently operating, largest local education authority in all of Europe. And France's immoral morale again mounted a kind of propaganda assault about the needs, educational needs of London that had nothing to do with the ordinary day to day educational needs of the people. And so, therefore, the disaster of the Ken Lines to Livingston fronted GLC mounting a challenge to Margaret Thatcher, made worse and aggravated by the challenge posed by France's immoral morale. So the time from May 1981, after the end of the Greater London Council, which was the outcome that Maggie Thatcher had plotted and successfully achieved in 5 or 6 years, was followed by the abolition of the Inner London Education Authority 3 years later. And the abolition of the Inner London Education Authority 3 years later was followed by the creation in Inner London, that is 10 boroughs in Inner London, of separate local education authority. And in Tower Hamlets in Newham, not Newham, Tower Hamlets, Lambeth, Camden, Hackney, Islington, Southwark, the education authorities that were created lacked any real democratic accountability or delivery or any answerability to the people who were most keen for the standards of education to be raised in Inner London across the 10 boroughs. And what is happening now in the period that has been followed by the creation by Tony Blair, not Tony Benn, Tony Blair in effectively with the 2000 Act, Greater London Act, which created for the first time elected executive mayor post in Greater London, and followed by the election of a mayor in Lewisham, election of a mayor in Hackney, election of a mayor in Newham. Now, the Newham mayor was Robin Wales. Robin Wales, who boasted of being a member of the anti-Leon Trotsky brigade, celebrating the murder of Leon Trotsky by I Speak. So he boasted that he was a member of the rare club, the I Speak Club. So it's a fascist boast that the incumbent mayor, at the expense of Newham, Robin Wales, boasted about. And Robin Wales was the leader of the Newham Council after the previous leader of the Newham Council, Stephen Timms, resigned to become Member of Parliament for East Ham. Now, Stephen Timms has never once uttered one democratic criticism of Robin Wales over 16 years. That is 4 mayoral elections that Robin Wales won until 2018, the May 2018 election, at which Roxana Fias was elected. And the election of Roxana Fias was aided by a campaign of outrage right across Newham, where the people were condemning Robin Wales' dictatorial, authoritarian, anti democratic, insulting attitude towards the ordinary people in Newham. And the promise was, the hope was, the expectation was that Roxana Fias would reverse all of that, and she promised to undo the post of elected mayor. That was a completely facile, untruthful, dishonest promise that Roxana Fiaz made, and it was never going to be implemented by her or anybody associated or aligned with her. And that has happened. She is persisting in the post and being aided and abetted by so called left wing cabal member Adrian Patrick White, who is publishing propaganda, Newham Vices, promoting Roxana affairs in the month, for 4 weeks or 5 weeks of the publication of the condemnation of her by critical members of the Newham Council, who have accused her of being arrogant, being authoritarian, being insulting, being hostile, being unaccountable, etc., etc., etc. This is the admission in the private eye Rottenborough's column 2 weeks or 4 weeks ago, and this is the reply. Adrian Patrick White has been paid money by Newham Council advertisements to promote Roxana Fias instead of admitting that there is widespread criticism of Roxana Fias being undemocratic, unaccountable, hostile, intimidating, arrogant, etc., etc., etc. Private Eye said that the item that they ran calling Tears for Fears, they said that it's all back to the days of Robin Wales. Now, this is 16 minutes, just under 17 minutes at 05:57 hours GMT on Tuesday, the 3rd of September 2024. The issues will be continued in the next following editions.